And here we are with coffee, the water, with our pen and paper, because today, my Sky CEO, we are talking about launch strategies. Launch strategies, and specifically, and I'm gonna say this right now, specifically, let me fix my microphone. Digital launches, okay? Launches in which we use the digital scape, so social media, emails, you name it, to launch a product and services, even if you have physical products, okay? We are not just going to talk about digital products. Even though that's my focus, you can apply the idea. I want to give you the strategic sense, which is more important, in my opinion, than the step-by-step, okay? I'll teach you to fish, to speak, and I'll hand you the fish. And as you know, at the end of the live stream, we are going to put eventually today or later, we're going to put the notes that we take here, the notes that I will take here, into the Discord so you can download. But I suggest that you, because I don't write everything down, I write the important things down on the notepad, I suggest that you join the Discord. The link is in the description, and take your own notes. You can even share those notes in the Discord if you want to do so. So let's start by, I'm just fixing things around because this is live, so everything happens, okay? Everything can happen, including let me move things around so I can have access to my keyboard, including some snow falling from the rooftop. Might make a lot of sound. I don't know if it's gonna get cut off, but if you hear a loud boom, that's what it is. Just warning, okay? So launch strategies. Let's get started with our thing over here. Make it a little larger so everyone can see. Launch strategies 101. What is a launch? When you hear the word launch, you probably go, oh, it's just how people, put products in the market and make an announcement. People confuse launch with announcement. And there is an announcement moment, an announcing moment in a launch strategy, but a launch is actually a sequence, okay? I know I'm gonna explain it to you. I have some more notes over here. So I'm gonna look down, I'm gonna look over there. A sequence of actions. We're gonna discuss which actions. There are phases, okay, that lead to an offer, that lead to sales. So with a fashion business, with our jewelry business, for example, in which you might have products arriving every week or so, what you might be doing is an announcement to your customers that are new coming along. That is not a launch. Now, if you want an example of a big launch, okay, we have Apple, that every semester or so, usually around March or April, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember exactly, and then in the middle of the year they make the WWDC. I can't remember the schedule right now, but they make the event, okay? There is an event, your launch, but there is also a sequence of actions, a sequence of something that leads to that event. Now, on that event, they build anticipation. So I am sort of spoiling a few things here, but just so you get the idea. And then they make the announcement, and only after a certain amount of time, usually they will, for example, announce iOS in June, and they say that by the end of fall of autumn, you will get access to the iOS, to the macOS, to the iPad. So that's a sequence of, I'm gonna use the same word, events that will lead, as a sequence of actions that will lead to a sale eventually. Well, iOS and macOS are free to upgrade to, but you know, in order to get access to those, you need to have one of their devices. The launch strategy usually has, or the launch strategies usually have two spheres, okay? Two spectrums. There's not a spectrum, but two different globes of strategy. One being the evergreen and one being a peak launch, which we call an internal launch. I'm gonna explain the difference between these two, but before going to the technical stuff, into the conceptual stuff, I need to remind you, because people ask me sometimes, usually in the Brazilian scape of launch strategies, because I've learned all this stuff with Brazilian experts. My mentors are Brazilian, and we imported the launch strategy that was designed or reinvented by Jeff Walker, and we exploded that niche. Okay, Brazil has exploded that niche, but the information stays in Brazil. I usually get asked if launch strategies aren't getting old, if they are not getting, if they are not going anywhere, if they are dying. The typical, you know, the market has grown, there's a lot of average people doing something, they are thinking that it's just gonna go away. It's true that people are more trained in terms of the events and the actions that precede a launch, but that's where you come in with a strategy, okay? Launches have existed for, well, at least at this level of marketing, at least 100 years. And if you go to Google at some point, you can type Rolls-Royce David Ogilvy. I'm gonna type it. Which is a great example of a node launch, of a node format of launch. Rolls-Royce David. Okay, you search that, add, Google it, okay, Google it. And this is a old sales letter, okay, this is a sales letter. And the sales letter is one of the tools that we still use to this day on our landing pages, on our video sales letter, but it is essentially where the sequence idea comes from. So you can also read Launch by Jeff Walker, and you can get sort of the source of this information, but we are gonna break it down even further and give you the strategic sense. Okay, I've done a few launches by myself, I've done a few launches with one expert, and I've done a few launches with our businesses, physical businesses, and they all have been completely different. The structure is the same, the phase is structured, the method, the strategic thinking behind it is the same, but the tools, the tactics, they were all different. Okay, so strategy it isn't a plan, so to speak, but strategy is knowing all the resources that you have and putting them to good use. And tactics are how you do it, okay? How are you going to use your email list in this case? How are you going to use your WhatsApp lists or your contacts to launch a new collection, a new course, a new mentoring, a new service to your current user base? Okay, so launches, oh, it's big again. Okay. Launches are a sequence of actions that lead to an offer and sales. Okay, so that's very important. That's the breadth behind launching and behind what we are doing here. And then I spoke about having two types of launches. You have the evergreen launch and you have the internal launch. I also will point out a few of the mistakes as we go through the phases of the launch, what people don't do, what people do wrong, and what people forget to do. So they don't do because they are resistant or because they forgot to do it. But type number one, so we have two types, and type number one is an evergreen launch, which is you go through the entire launch process and you eventually take that product. You don't take that product out of the market. You go through the entire process, all the phases, but the product remains in the market. So when Apple launches a new phone, you can get that phone for a few years in, even if they launch a new model. So get an option to buy it later. Why do people buy the phone right away though, right? Because they're really good at building anticipation, and we are going to talk about mental triggers a little bit as well. Anticipation is part of launching. Building the buzz is what people call it. Okay, so the other type being a peak launch, which is an internal launch. You go through the entire process, but the product remains in the market for just a few days. Is there a better way, or should you do one or the other? You should do both, okay? And I'm gonna explain a little bit later why. But an evergreen launch, the strategy to make that product sell over time is different to a peak or an internal. And having both means that not only you're gonna have your cash flow rotating with an evergreen, but you can create that peak, that innovation also. Peak launches, internal launches force you to innovate with your product, and if you don't, they stop working. And I think that's why people feel like, you know, when there is a webinar, for example, that's one of the strategies to build anticipation and to put people inside. And a webinar is just a sales letter in the format of a lesson, okay? And that's one of the methods, one of the strategy to put people inside a product that will be available for a very short amount of time. And I think because people forget to innovate their product, update their product, or launch a different product, you don't have to launch always the same product. They feel like it's dying, when it's just incompetent, okay? I don't want to say it too loud, but if you innovate a product, if you're constantly updating it with new information, with you are redoing the lessons, you are redoing the method, you are working on your method. If you have been following me, you know that a method is the central, the heart of this entire thing that I do over here. I help you sell your knowledge, package what you know in products, in services, through a method. Because a method is what's going to give you the structure, the cash flow structure to do this, the strategies behind it. That's a little bit too advanced for now, okay? Let's focus on the launch strategies and the launch structure, the MVP launch structure. And so you should be doing a year-long plan of a evergreen versus peak. I'm gonna call it internal, just simply internal. You should be doing a year-long plan of an evergreen versus internal. So the internal, and let's think about let's think about a year-long strategy. So what we call this a big picture. January, February, March, April. Oh. Let me write. Okay. Big picture of the year. If you launch too often, you're gonna tire people out, okay? You are not even gonna have that much time to execute so many products at once, unless you are putting the quality down to the ground. So the big picture of the year, you need to take in consideration timing, okay? So let's do timing. Holidays, days of the week. You need to work with the year. You can't just launch because you have something ready and then you're gonna launch next week. That's not how it works. You need to plan it in advance. So that's why we do the big picture. We take this macro look. It's just a macro look. Holidays, days of the week, and then the months, the best months. And of course, the most obvious timing is January and February. Oh, January and December, because you have holidays and because you have that general feeling that people have that they need to change their lives now. Change of quarters, so around April and May, and then August and September. I would avoid launching anything too big during summer holidays. If you live in the South Hemisphere, you are probably launching during summer anyway, because summer is in December. So it's a little different. But the timing is you're going to launch every 3 to 4 months, taking in consideration the holidays and the days of the week. So your evergreen launch, separated, I'm talking about internal launches. You're probably gonna launch here. I'm gonna put an emoji so it's easier. We are going to launch here. Let's do a bag. We're going to launch here, and then let's put April, and then, or let's put May actually. And then you can launch again in November, or let's do it backwards. I want to launch in December, and then September. Skip to June. Is this a rule, Jules? Do I have to follow what you're saying right now to the dot? Listen, it's your business model, it's your structure. You know how much you can actually produce a year. But in the beginning of the year, you sit down and you plan. We are now in March. You have time to plan now a June launch, a September launch, and a December launch. You can be launching a course. You can be launching a service. You can be launching an entire collection for your fashion business. I don't know. You can launch a new flavor in your coffee shop. You can create an entire movement behind a coffee flavor. That's what McDonald's does. It's McDonald's, not McDonald's. Okay, but for the love of God. That's what they do. They create those campaigns and then they launch, but they have an immense budget that they can just do that internal launch with very little anticipation. That's something we're going to discuss as well as part of the structure. Meanwhile, your evergreen products, the products that you are always going to have available. Let's get a good, our evergreen. Is going to be just give me some. Let's put a unicorn. It's a nice contrast between the bag and the unicorn. Okay. It's going to be available throughout the year until you decide that you don't want it available anymore. All right. So just for this is your evergreen product. Why is there such a huge? And this is your internal launch product. Inherently, your internal launch products, and there is one video here in the channel that you should go back to, and I always mention it when I record a video because it's such a foundational central knowledge that you should go watch. It's the first video. The thumbnail has Catch This DNA on it. Watch that video so you understand a little bit more of this structure, this cash flow structure, which is the cash flow structure also in the Infinite Product Method course that we are launching soon. But basically, your internal launch products are high ticket products. Internal launch, always a high ticket. Because it is a lot of effort that you are putting into this launch. It is a lot of budget that you might be putting into this launch. It's a lot of structure, effort, and resources. Okay, I'm starting out. Can I do an internal launch without budget, without putting money in ads? You can, and there are strategies in order to do so. For example, there is the express launch that you can create a MVP of the entire structure and test that product. So when you launch a product, especially a digital product, you are not just going for cash flow. You are maybe testing a method. You are testing how interested your audience is in that solution. You are maybe testing the premise of your product and how you are offering it. The offer, you're testing the actual offer, the structure of the offer. You're testing the delivery. Should you do this or that format? So all of these things are part of strategy, and it's why I want you to understand the strategy before following a step-by-step or a checklist or just going through a recipe, because it really depends on your audience. It really depends on the buying power of the audience. It depends on how well you structure the product. It depends on the quality of a product. It's a lot of it depends. With strategy, it's usually a lot of it depends, quote unquote. So we need to talk about the phases of a launch before we can go on talking about strategies and giving you ideas for you to design your own launch strategy. There are 4 main phases, and then I'm gonna give you the structure, okay? The 4 main phases of a launch. The most skipped phase by far is the pre-launch or the PPL. Everybody talks about your pre-launch, but nobody talks about your pre-launch, and it's by far one of the most important ones. A lot of people want to launch without having an audience, without having you don't really need an audience, by the way. You don't need to build a following on Instagram, on YouTube, or whatever, but you do need to have somebody or a group of people to launch to. So an email list sometimes is enough. Sometimes is enough. Okay, so a pre-launch is it's more important even than the pre-launch, because the pre-launch can literally last 3 days or 2 hours. It doesn't matter. If you do the pre-launch well, it's success. Okay, it's success. So then you have the pre-launch, which we're gonna call PL. You have the launch, which is the D week or the L week, D-Day, L week. And then you have the post-launch, which I like to write with a small p, just to differentiate from the pre-launch. And I'm going to break down what you should be doing on each phase, okay? Coffee is getting cold. Strong. Ooh, what a punch. Okay. Let me get a little. I really don't like how I have to press twice. This. Okay, the pre-launch is a preparing the grounds. Let's put it like preparing the grounds. We change font. So here you are testing the waters. Okay, you are going to test the waters, and you are going to find out. You want to be like that. You're going to. I don't feel like dealing with this. La 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 la. Go. Oh, okay. That's a lot easier. You are going to find out we do this thing called a trigger shot. Why do you have to do that? If you have an email list, if you have a social media following, even if it's a small following, it doesn't matter. You need to find out what people are struggling with. What is the need? Okay, because we entrepreneurs solve problems. What is the problem? The need, okay, that we need to solve, that we are solving with our product. Because launching a product that nobody wants to nobody is a waste of effort, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of resources. You need to understand this. This is by far, that's why I said this is by far the most important phase, because it's where everybody, it's such a basic thing, but everybody, I'm okay, not 90%, it's not everybody, of course it's not everybody, but the amount of people that I see making this rookie mistake is unfathomable. It's unbelievable, and I don't want you making that mistake. You're gonna do a trigger shot. A trigger shot can be an email. Can we not do this anymore? An email, a sequence of stories, like you can open a box of questions, and as you get your following, as you talk to people, it's really important to talk to people. Surprise, surprise, who would have thought? So you can get a sense of what their problem is, what their objection are, their problems are, their objections are, their fears. You need to figure all these things out before even starting to create the product. You need to know what problem you are solving before you create the product. So, but you know the theme, okay? You know the theme of the product. So when I was creating the No Excuse, first, they had two names. The first name was the No Excuse Branding Bootcamp, and then I took the branding part off because it ended up being a lot more than just branding. I wanted to create a brand strategy course because that's what I was working with. That was my main theme. My career evolved from being design to brand strategy to business strategy, integrated strategy. I talk about personal strategies, I talk about digital strategies, I talk about launch strategies, I talk about creating digital products. It's a gamma. I talk about strategy in the gamma, the entire spectrum of it. And I sent a trigger shot email, and if you were in the No Excuse bootcamp, and I think I put it in another product that I can't remember which one it is, but you have that email saved. Anyway, you have the PDF of the email, and it's just basically creating the involvement of my audience into the creation of the product. I didn't lie saying that, hey, or not lying, but I didn't omit that I was creating a product. I'm like, I'm thinking about this thing, of creating this thing, but I need it to be the right product. I need you to be part of the creation of that product because I want it to be useful. And people want to be part of it because they want the solution. Okay, there is a lot of great content, but not enough offers. So when you involve people and you tell them, hey, this product that I'm creating is for you to solve the problems that you have. And if there is a hidden, my keyboard, if there is a hidden urgency, okay, hidden urgency, a need, a problem that hasn't been solved yet, you're gonna find out in here. You are going to create that trigger shot to find the hidden urgency. So there was a need for a brand strategy course, but people wanted more step by step. They didn't want a framework. They didn't want how to create a workshop. They wanted a step by step. But that product grew so much, so I thought they needed a course, but what they actually needed was a step-by-step. They wanted to build an actual business behind that brand strategy business. They didn't just want to shoot up that rate and sell a workshop. They wanted to build a business. So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna not only give you the brand strategy method, but I'm gonna give you in a way that you're first going to apply it on yourself to then apply it on your clients. So the product was not only for them to apply on themselves, but also to apply on their clients. And that was how I found out. So here you're gonna end up finding the format. I'm hitting my notes. You're gonna find the format, what format you should be thinking about. We're gonna talk about format in the entire structure. You're going to find what solution you are solving. You're going to involve people into the production. Everything is wrong. Help. What happened to the stream? We're back? We're back. I don't know what happened to the stream. I don't know if the recording is gonna have that, but something went off. Because you already know the theme of your product, you start creating content around the theme to attract an audience. And you're gonna use the information as well to create informed content. The PPL is where you attract people and where you get the MVP idea. You're gonna get the big idea. We call it the big idea of your product. Okay, so you are going to the goals, the objective of the PPL. The main objectives of the PPL is to get the big idea for your product and attract an audience. You don't need 1,000 followers. You don't need 10,000 followers. In fact, you should try to not viralize at all at this stage. Viralizing at the early stages actually gives you a disadvantage, because not only you are going to attract probably people that only want stuff for free, so freeloaders. They have a strategic, if you are in the infinite product method, if you are going to be in there, you're going to understand what's the strategy behind viralization. They do have a strategic, there is a tactic behind viralization that we use, okay? But at this stage, if this is your first internal launch, if this is the first evergreen launch you're doing, you do not want to viralize. You want to create content that will encourage people to message you. At this stage, you need to be talking to your people to find out who the ideal client is for your business. If you have a business model, again, but I have to mention the infinite product method. If you have or the digital passport, the mentoring, if you have your BMC, business model canvas, you go ahead and do it. The way that we do with my method, it's a little different, but that's enough to get started. Go to the internet and do a BMC, a business model canvas. Okay, BMC, we call it BMC. To find out your segmentation, because if you know that segmentation, you are going to identify the ideal client. This is the guy that you want to build to, because you are creating a trail of products that are going to create a progressive transformation. They're going to start knowing nothing, which is what you are doing right now. You are here at the very start of my trail of products. I decided to give a lot for free without a structure. Okay, you're not going to get the same amount of strategy, the same amount of tactics, the same amount of... See, the DNA of the free product and the DNA of a paid product is completely different. But you need to get that starting point for people so they can evolve with you. They can grow with you. The growth behind your business is it's proportional to the growth that you create in your cash flow structure in your product trail, which is what we do here. Go back to that first video, you're gonna understand what a product trail is. Catch this DNA video. Okay, watch the Catch This DNA video, the first video on the channel. Well, one of the first videos on the channel, so you can understand what a product belt, I think I call it a product belt on that one, is cash flow structure, because that's how you are going to make sure that your evergreen and your internal launches make sense to your business model, to your structure. Because I see structures that do not make sense, and I see them so much, and it drives me insane, which is why I'm here. It's why I'm here. I want you to apply that on yourself. You need to remember to have and to look into your business model before doing this. Before you go through this, look at your business model and think about panorama. I think that was the last live, one live before, I can't remember. It's either live 2 or 3. There is so much gold in this channel. Okay, now let's keep going. Pre-launch. Otherwise, I'll just freak out left and right. Pre-launch. The pre-launch is, this is when you are going to, I did it like this. This is the warm-up zone. Okay, before you go to a workout, you do a few mobility exercises, you warm up the muscle group you're going to work out, and then you do your training program. That's kind of like the idea. This is the idea. Now you are doing your mobility stretches and you are warming up the muscle group for your workout. This is when you are going to tell people you are launching the product finally. And if you build anticipation. A lot of people say that you should build anticipation just on the pre-launch, but I actually have a secret that I don't know if I should say here because it's a little advanced, but whatever. Okay, so the PPL we divide in two, in which part one, let's call it part one. This is when you are attracting. Part one, you attract. And part two is when you switch things up and you start anticipating that something's coming. So technically, you can merge or start building curiosity. So now we are talking mental triggers already at the PPL. Okay, and this shouldn't be more than 2 weeks long. You are not showing anything of the product. Maybe you're showing some BTS at this phase. You are giving people a little. I can't believe it's almost been. This is insane. And I'm just talking about. This is probably going to be a 2 or even 3 part thing. But this is when you are giving people a little taste that something's coming, a little bit of a BTS. It is what I'm doing right now with the infinite product method. Once I switch up to a pre-launch, you are going to have a sales letter sequence. This is when the sales letter comes in, or the VSL. If you're doing it in video format, it's probably going to be a VSL. It could be a sequence of live lessons. In Brazil, it's really common that we do a warm-up week. And then some people do a warm-up week with 3 live streams with 1 day in between, or they do a every day for a week. Some people do a 24-hour, 48-hour pre-launch. Some people do 3 days. There isn't an exact rule of how long the pre-launch should be. But the max that I would say, max 7 days, but no minimum, okay? And this one is as long as you need to get a feel. Another mistake I see people doing is staying too long in here and not launching anything, ever. They live in their PPL part 1 forever, and that's a huge mistake because then you miss the opportunity of actually testing the product. You want to test that product. Even if you don't make a sale, that is already a test. You failed the test, which is a good thing. Great. I'm gonna talk about this. What to do when you don't sell. Max 7 days for your pre-launch, but you don't really have a minimum. Some people do a live every day for 7 days and they deliver a lot of value. Okay, it's not just a webinar, it's just one of the strategies. Every day for 7 days. Some people just announce open card for 48 hours. The people that announce the card for 48 hours, they don't need to do a lot of convincing. They have a naturally high buying power audience. So I don't need to write so. High buying power audience allows you to shorten your PL. Do you need to have a lot of followers to shorten your pre-launch? Absolutely not. I've seen experts, and I have one expert, okay, that she has a lot of followers, talking about close to 500,000 or a little over 500,000. And she has never spent 1 dime on ads, and her membership, if you know me, you know who I'm talking about. If you know me closely, you know who I'm talking about. If you are my mentee, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not gonna expose her here, but you know who I'm talking about. And she has more buying power. Her audience has more buying power. She's never spent one dime on ads than some people with 2 million that I know. I also have seen people with 100,000 followers that have a lot more buying power than other people with 2 million. Even that 2 million person or expert that I know, there is another one with even less followers than the expert that I've worked with, that has, the audience has more buying power. And buying power isn't just having money, okay? It is interest in you, in your personal brand, in what you are doing, in what you are delivering. And this is when you test it. It's on your pre-launch and your PPL and your PL that you test the high or the buying power of your audience, the interest that they have in your product, in your solution. How much do they trust you? Okay? So this is the moment in which you are going to find that out, my friend, and you are going to deliver that product, okay? So here, in terms of strategy for an evergreen, and a peak launch, you are going to have a PL for both. What is going to be different is what comes after the launch week and the pre-launch and the post-launch, because for an evergreen, the post-launch is not only a debriefing. Post-launch is a debriefing phase, but it is also you continue delivering the product over an insurmountable amount of time. I don't even know if that's a word in English, but you're gonna continue delivering the product on your post-launch. If you're doing a internal, I said I was gonna call it an internal. Your post-launch is just debriefing, but you silently, or it's gonna depend on the strategy, it's gonna depend on what kind of product you have. You may also be delivering silently, or just for the community that buy your product, or content. So it's how you deliver that it's different. And of course, if people can buy it or not. So the strategies, the remarketing, we are gonna get there. Okay, evergreen versus internal. The anticipation that you have to build is the same. Okay, so you are going to have to create content and deliver that content, that valuable content to people. And here we call it a PLC, a pre-launch content, which is valuable, applicable, and a little taste of the paid product that you are about to launch. And you are absolutely, you tell people that you are selling something. People are already trained, they already know you're going to do something, but you encourage, okay, you encourage them to stay regardless, because they will get value and they can apply even if they don't have moolah, they don't have money. So it needs to be that good that people can actually apply. Okay, they can actually do something with it. You are going to create PLC, your pre-launch content, on a live. It's a long form content, ideally on a live, or you can deliver it in an email for I think it was a no excuse camp tab. I delivered a week-long course on email. Okay, so it has to be long form content of some sort. 2 people, this is important, that have shown interest. So you need to collect those leads. You can't just email your entire audience at this stage and call them in. You need to have a copywriting strategy here for both people that showed interest and for people that did not show interest. I'm going to talk about, I'm not gonna give the checklist exactly because it's a lot of content and we are in an hour in, and I'm still only talking about the phases. But if you are my student, if you're my mentee, you have the entire step-by-step there. You know what to do. You need to segment the people that are interested from the people that are not interested, and you have to be, or they didn't show interest, whether because they didn't see that you were launching something, or whether because you didn't really target them that well, or they forgot about it. But you need to have 2 strategies so that you call the attention of these 2 people differently because they are at different stages of the funnel. The person who is in your VIP list or on your I am interested in what you are launching list is a lot more closer to the buying conversion than someone who has very little awareness one way or the other. So the strategy needs to be different, okay? And you're gonna do that by email. You're gonna deliver the PLC by email, by video, ideally. Live streams can be on Instagram or by email. If it's your, I'm gonna give some grace with the email because I've done that and it works. And the original strategy by Jeff Walker was done by email, and email is not going anywhere. There's parrot tickled my, hey, Jesus Christ. Email is not going anywhere and it works. Social media can go. Email list should be part of your strategy at all phases. Email should be part of all your strategy, of all the phases and tactics, actually. I keep pressing the wrong things. Always. And then you have your launch week. So here, wait, did I talk about? Okay, no. Before we go to the launch week, here you're building anticipation. So you are actually you are moving from anticipation to urgency, scarcity, and it has to be real scarcity. I'm going to talk about the difference between urgency and scarcity. And you might even do a little bit of what is the term in English? I always forget this word. It's not commanding, it's not imposing. You are triggering commitment. Okay, that's not the word, but triggering commitment. That's not the word. I don't remember what's the word, but the urgency versus scarcity spiel is that scarcity is a real limitation of the resource. In this case, it's our product. So if you are doing a mentoring, you might not want to do a mentoring for 100 people. Like my mentoring is just for 4 people per quarter or 8 people per quarter. That's scarcity. I have only 8 places because I want to give attention to my students. I am one person. That's a real limitation. Urgency can be mixed with scarcity, okay? But urgency is you have 48 hours before I close my cart. You have 10 hours before I raise the price. The early bird pricing is going away. This is urgency. It's time is running out. Urgency can be triggered by scarcity if the limitation is limited. If the limitation is getting to an end. So when scarcity, when the resource of the scarcity is getting to an end, your lead will get a feeling of missing out. Will get FOMO, fear of missing out, which is urgency, basically. So if I have one spot left, I post that on my stories, then there is a feeling of scarcity and there is a feeling of urgency, and they are both very much real. Okay? Triggering commitment. It is a advanced strategy, so I'm not gonna give a lot of details because it can really bite you back if you don't do this right. Triggering commitment is aggressive, so use with caution. Okay? When you are triggering commitment, you are basically telling people for it to work, it has to be aggressive, okay? It has to be, you see that a lot in American ads, for example, in marketing ads. And in Brazil, some players do it, not everyone does it because it is aggressive, and it might not be part of a brand strategy to do that. You are telling people that they need to have that commitment with themselves, that commitment with the future. You are creating a negative feeling. And a negative feeling that is attached to your product can go wrong, can go very wrong. So I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but this is something that is used at this. Okay, let's move on. Launch week. You're going to have a week or less I've seen experts leaving their trainings, usually very high ticket, with a lot of urgency, with a lot of scarcity, or just a few hours, few days even. Some people open their carts for 3 hours, some people open their carts for 7 days. I like the 7 days because I don't have a lot of audience. I don't have a high buying medium. So the launch week can be, it's a week. I would not, absolutely not go over a week-long launch time, because the tendency is that it is shortening. Our attention span, it is so shortened at this point that going over launch week, going over a week-long launch time might actually produce less sales. You might have a 3-day long launch week or phase that sells as much as a 7 phase, okay? 7-day long phase. And I've seen that, I've seen the numbers, I've seen, we talk about a Batman graph. It is a graph that looks like Batman. In the beginning of the launch week, you get peak, that's why it's called a peak launch. And then for internal, okay, for internal, you have the bat graph. Get a peak, and then it goes down, and then it goes back up when you close. But if you compress that, you're gonna have just a mount, a plateau, which is not a plateau. What is a better word? You're going to have a peak that is just shortened and flat on the top. In revenue terms, it's going to be the same, but in effort and the amount of time you put into the launch week is going to be different. For you to shorten that launch week, you will need to have a high buying power audience. Always, if you're trying to shorten things, people need to be into it, okay? So, in the launch week, you are pitching. Oops. The transition, I have to talk about the transition between the PPL, the PL and the launch week. So you're gonna, let's say that you're gonna have day 1, day 3, day 4, day 5. This is not a rule, this is an example. And day 7, okay? Of your PL. Here starts the launch week. The launch starts here. This is lesson 1. Lesson 2. Or live. Live. Oops. Live 2, live 3, live 4, pitch. Launch starts here. And you continue communicating and delivering value in different formats, and you're creating content, you are messaging, you are emailing. A lot of people in Brazil use WhatsApp to do this. Maybe you are delivering a PDF with the contents of your live, you are creating extras. I don't know. It's gonna depend on your strategy, it's gonna depend on what product you're selling, okay? How to apply that extra value. Once your launch starts, you are starting your launch week. And it's gonna depend on how long you are staying with the cart open for a peak launch or an internal launch. If you're doing evergreen, the launch week is about the promotion, the initial promotion that you're going to give people, okay? For evergreen, the launch week is a special condition. Maybe you're giving a special condition only for people that join the VIP list. I'm not gonna write off these things. Coming up with ideas as I go, I'm not gonna write them down in here. It's a special condition like an early bird or access to a bonus, to a special bonus. And that Batman graph that I mentioned doesn't apply to an evergreen because you don't have the end peak. So more like a peak and then a drop. It's natural that it drops, and for an evergreen you need to constantly talk about that product or service. Our service probably is going to be a internal launch. It's probably going to be a peak launch because you have a real time scarcity, okay? Even though you might open for a VIP, you can create a list, a wait list for people that want to join your mentoring, that want to join your service, but it is essentially an internal launch. You are launching to your internal list of people. That's why it's called internal. You have a list, you're launching to those people. With an evergreen, you can create ads to do remarketing. You can remarket to people that are similar to the audience that you already have, or to people that didn't buy in the first place. So you are constantly renovating and taking advantage as well of social media, because social media renovates, your audience renovates really, really, really often. On Instagram, on TikTok, on here on YouTube, people subscribe, new people arrive, and you are constantly talking about your evergreen product. But you need also to keep updating that evergreen product so that there is interest, genuine interest into it constantly. It is a lot of work. When people say that digital products, ooh, my pet peeve, are passive income, I just know they have no idea what it's like to run a business. They have no idea what it's like to launch a product that is going to be really evergreen, always green, new, always new. It is a lot of freaking work. That's why iOS gets updates. That's why Apple needs to launch a new phone every year, even with little changes. And this happens here as well. You don't give ever, and I've made this mistake, lifetime access. Unless they pay more, they don't get lifetime access, because otherwise it's not evergreen. Do you understand this? 1-2 year max access to your evergreen products, because when you have a business, not a charity. And 2, because you need to keep it evergreen. No course. I've spent a lot of money on courses, with mentorings, with God knows what. No course that I've bought, and I thought this was a competitive advantage, giving it a lifetime access. And there are a lot of problems behind lifetime access that people don't understand. Okay, I bought all those products, I've invested in my education, and none of them were lifetime access. They were truly evergreen. Once you give lifetime access to people, they are more likely to not go through your product. And you want success cases. You don't want students only. You want people to go through your product and get results. You want to have that inherent urgency and even a little bit of scarcity. Okay, so there is a strategy when delivering the product as well. You need to have that, and we're going to talk about it on the post-launch, but you need to have that evergreen mindset. You need to understand this. It is not passive. If it is passive, you don't care about what you are delivering. You do not care about people's results. You do not care about it being evergreen. You just want to make some money, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not a true, in my conception of a long-term success business, focused business, of a long-term conquest is the word. You don't just create things and leave it. There's nothing passive. Even if your evergreen funnel is automated, you are going to sit down every day and you're gonna look at your ad groups. I'm not gonna talk about that right now, but in detail. I need you to understand that, okay? Post-launch, let me see if I forgot anything. During the launch week, you need to make sure, okay, you need to make sure people have people have access to the product. Very important. So you are sending emails with information. Oh, we are not going, I'm doing this in 2. Access to the product, sending emails with information on how to log in, on how to get support, email and WhatsApp, if it makes sense to use WhatsApp or Telegram. Support for people who joined and who didn't. Yeah, who didn't as well. You're going to ask them why not. What was the reason why they wouldn't have joined? There is research you can do with people that joined and with people that didn't. So you can improve on that product. You need to make sure that people know that people will make sure people have, let's do this. You can get email, and that people know where to get started. So your product, you need to tell them what's their next step. Okay, what's the next step? Very important, very overlooked as well. There is nothing worse, my God, than buying a product and not getting the correct email, then not getting the correct, or their schedule. You can send people's schedule as well. When you join the Infinite Product Method, you're getting a schedule because the course will be dripped to you. So you're gonna get a few lessons every day because I want to make sure that you act on it, and I also want to make sure that you come back to it, that you actually do the things that I am telling you to do. Okay, so you can build your business with me there. So you're going to receive a schedule of the week, a general schedule. You're going to receive a few emails to see how you are doing so we can keep in touch. This is already a post-launch thing. It's part of the delivery. Okay, so the post-launch and the delivery of the product can happen simultaneously, especially if it's an evergreen or an internal launch. An internal launch, if people buy on the first day, you're already doing the delivery for that group of people. But so this is the delivery. Okay, delivering the product. We're gonna talk about those structures and these specificities. Tough word. Probably in the next part, in the next lesson, we're gonna get into the actual structure because the MVP structure is gonna happen next week. So you need to make sure people have access to the product, that they can get support, that they know what they have to do next, where to get started, where's the access, how to talk to you, if they need to schedule something. If you're delivering a physical product, they need to know eventually when, if you're not sending the tracking code right away, they need to know when they're gonna get the tracking code, so you need to send an email. Even if you send those emails, people might still miss it. So repetition is important, always important. And if you're doing an internal launch, you are probably doing a sequence of emails as well at the end of the launch week so that you get more people in, okay? You want to give people the chance to go in, so you are going to email them more often. On the last 12 hours, probably 12 hours to go, 6 hours or 8 hours to go, 4 hours to go, 2 hours to go, 1 hour to go, half an hour, okay? Because you want people to get in. Of course you do. The post-launch, it's the delivery and the briefing. And the briefing, we're going to talk about in detail later what that actually consists of, but delivery is making sure everyone has what they need. Everyone has what they need. Access, they understand where they are, how to get in touch with you, access to the community if you're offering a community, where they can schedule a meeting with you, where they can, I don't know, whatever it is, the format of a product, if they can download the content, if it's a downloadable thing that you are offering. And the debriefing is an internal process that you analyze your strategy. It is an analysis. I hammer on analysis for your personal strategies. I hammer on an analysis for your business model, your structure. I hammer on analysis. I want you to get used to analyzing your progress, to analyzing what can be better, to analyzing what you should do differently, analyze the numbers. So you are analyzing. We're going to talk about what you're going to analyze in detail, okay? In detail. For the peak launch, the internal launch, this ends here. You are delivering if people have 1 year access. Very important. If you're long tailing that product, meaning you are delivering the lessons, it's a big course like the infinite product method will be, you are going to get 2 or 3 modules, a module of introduction to the course, and then you're going to get dripped lessons for module 1, dripped lessons for module 2, that could last for 3 weeks, let's say like that, or 21 to 30 days. After 6 months, you are going to launch another module inside the product, so the delivery continues, okay? For an evergreen, the delivery never ends. Evergreen. That you're going to do live streams, you're going to do Q&As, you're going to update content, you're going to add new lessons here and there. You can, of course, pre-record those lessons, deliver it to people, because you want to come back and you want to reduce churn. You don't want people to leave or ask for money back. You give the guarantee, very important actually, you give the guarantee that they can have money back, and if the amount of time depends on the country you live in, but you want them to feel like they are getting a lot. You are over delivering, okay? They're getting a lot for what they've paid for. They're getting more than they thought they would. It's nice to include surprises that you don't announce. The infinite product method has a bunch of things that I'm gonna announce that are in there for people to enjoy, to lap up, okay? That's the DNA behind all of this. You are always delivering more than you're promising. It's a lot of work, and it's definitely not passive. So, you know, you choose to go the easy route, or you choose to go to the abundant route. I choose the abundant route always. I'm going to talk about the MVP structure, and then we are going to look over what I call an express launch. We're going to talk about the planning part. We are going to talk about acquisition. We are going creating relationships, lead generation, and the actual event, the launch week. And I'm looking at my notes here. I might offer this little, let's see. It's gonna depend if you've come this far into the live stream, into the video, if you watch this video later, because I know a live stream at a pretty bad hour for a lot of countries. It is early for me, it's the best hour for me, it's the only hour I can. I either do it this time or I don't do it at all, and I prefer to do and then have people watch it later than not do it all. But if you're watching this, I want you to type in the comments a hashtag. Type hashtag there's no free lunch in the comments. And if you guys do that, and if I think there are enough comments in the next lesson, not only am I going to talk about the phases of the launch and the planning and the structure and everything that you need, I'm gonna give the mind map as well. I'm gonna add the mind map as a bonus, because you're gonna get the PDF in the Discord, okay? Remember to get into this Discord. There are the PDFs from the other lessons. So all of these notes that I'm writing here, they are in the Discord in a very nice PDF, very nice looking, okay? PDF. So you can download that. Not only you're going to get this PDF, these notes, you're also going to get this guide, this mind map. This is the mind map worth of millions. Literally. This is something I give to my mentees. They have the entire structure broken down, but they also get a look into the express launch phases, and I want to give it to you. Broken down into the phases, and I'm gonna break it down with you the next live stream. Put the hashtag in the comments. Go to the Discord. Those are the two things you have to do right now.